In a future world, humans set out to explore a mysterious planet, only to suffer a disastrous attack by terrifying worms. Andy clearly felt an overwhelming force pulling at his lower body, gradually dragging him deep underground. Fear and despair instantly consumed him. He struggled desperately, but to no avail. Finally, as the worms continued their relentless devouring, Andy was completely consumed. Within the body of a worm, his consciousness began to fade, and the events of the past few days flashed before his eyes like a revolving lantern. It turned out that Andy was merely an ordinary worker, about to board the Polaris mining ship for a job on a planet light years away. However, halfway through the journey, the mining ship was struck by a meteorite, forcing thousands of workers, including Andy, to make an emergency landing on an unknown planet. Although everyone had hibernation pods, only a handful managed to survive. Later, Andy was forced to enter survival mode in the wilderness. During the dark hours of the night, he encountered a three-legged spider reminiscent of Cthulhu. In his frantic dash for survival, he lost his sense of direction and tumbled off a sheer cliff, nearly fatally injured. Fortunately, his spacesuit provided full protection. He only felt his insides churn, without breaking any arms or legs. He managed to get up and continued forward, only to find hundreds of hibernation pods ahead, with survivors being feasted on by the three-legged spiders. Though Andy wished to save the others, he was too weak to make a difference. Hiding in one of the hibernation pods and pondering his escape, he suddenly saw lights illuminate nearby, and the three-legged spiders quickly converged upon the sound. Deciding without hesitation, Andy sprinted away. However, he slipped and fell, and just when he thought this would be the end, the spider hesitated to approach. Without much thought, Andy got up and ventured further into the depths, only to be ambushed by an underground worm attack. Soon he was devoured, and with his hopes shattered, his heart even ceased to beat. Yet at that critical moment, his spacesuit activated a defibrillator, and under a powerful electric shock, the worm spat him out. After escaping, he continued to run for his life, stumbling into a strange cave. There he discovered glowing insects. Thankfully, the insects merely emitted light rather than incinerating him. As he ran on, his oxygen supply rapidly depleted, and just as he was about to suffocate, he spotted the last survivor, Zhao Mi, inside one of the hibernation pods. By connecting the oxygen tube to an oxygen backpack, Andy managed to provide Zhao Mi with much-needed oxygen. The two then left the hibernation pod and eventually found the crashed Polaris spaceship. However, there were numerous three-legged spiders lurking nearby. Without hesitating, they ran toward the Polaris. At the very moment when the spiders were about to catch up, Zhao Mi acted swiftly, slamming the cabin door shut. Believing that safety awaited them inside the ship, they turned around only to see more three-legged spiders. Upon closer observation, Andy and Zhao Mi realized that the terrifying creatures had made this place their nest. In the next moment, an even more vicious spider queen appeared. Spotting the living beings, it quickly lunged at them. In a panic, the two protagonists fled to a warehouse, using the containers inside to dart around and evade the Spider Queen's pursuit. However, this state of flight was not sustainable. Andy then instructed Zhao Mi to act as bait while he climbed to a higher vantage point and activated another hibernation pod. Their coordination was impeccable, and the Spider Queen continued to chase Zhao Mi at a measured pace. Seizing the perfect opportunity, Andy triggered the ejection system, and the hibernation pod slammed down on the monster. The story essentially comes to a close here. The two protagonists are forced to endure a grueling 2.5-year life in the warehouse before Earth's rescue team finally arrives. It is even speculated that during this time, they might have a child who, aptly named Zhang Wuji, will one day stumble upon destiny, master unparalleled martial arts, and command all the major factions in the martial world. In short, this annual space epic is sure to completely upend hardcore science fiction conventions. Nolan watched in silence. Villeneuve rose to his feet. This suffocating space experience and the mind-blowing Cthulhu element are truly staggering.